Let's talk about the probability distribution for a random variable. Before we start constructing a probability distribution for a discrete random variable, let's define it first. A discrete probability distribution consists of the values a random variable can assume and the corresponding probabilities of the values. In other words, ang probability distribution ay naglalaman ng mga values ng random variable, okay, as well as its corresponding probabilities. Suppose that our probability experiment is tossing 3 coins. We know that when we toss 3 coins, okay, in this experiment, we will have the sample space. Okay, TTT, TTH, THT, HTT, HHT, HTH, THH, and HHH. Okay, where T represents the tail and H represents the heads. Now, if x is the random variable for the number of heads, then x assumes the value 0, 1, 2, or 3. Okay, meaning, ang ating random variable, okay, is x, and the values of the random variables are 0, 1, 2, or 3. Ano ibig sabihin ng values natin ito? Okay, it only means that in our experiment, okay, sa ating sample space, if we let x as our random variable for the number of heads, meron dito sa ating sample space na walang head. Okay? And that is when the outcome are all tails. That is why one of the values is 0. There are also, okay, there are also possible outcomes na nasa ating sample space wherein the number of heads is only 1. Okay? Like in this case, isa lang yung head, isa lang yung head, isa lang yung head. At meron din naman tayong chances, okay, based dito sa ating sample space na meron namang dalawang heads. Ito, ito, at ito. And of course, meron ding isang chance sa ating sample space na merong tatlong heads. Okay, so when we construct a probability distribution, okay, so pagsasamahin lang naman natin ang random variable na tinatawag natin, values of the random variable, as well as its corresponding probability. Now, if we look at 0 as our value for the random variable x, what is the probability? Okay, that the number of heads is 0. So if you look at the sample space, meron lang naman isang outcome dyan na walang heads, and that is when the outcome consists of all tails. Okay, so the probability of that is 1 out of 8. Okay, saan galing yung 8? That is the total number of possible outcomes. Now, how about when the random or the values of the random variable is 1? So meaning, isa lang yung head. So if you look at the sample space, we can see that there are 3 outcomes na isa lang yung heads. Okay, so our probability for that is 3 out of 8. 3 over 8. Meron din namang mga outcomes na merong dalawang heads. Okay, so here we have this 1, 2, and 3. And the probability is 3 out of 8. And last, meron ding outcome na puro heads. And that is only 1. So the probability for this value is 1 out of 8. Thus, our discrete probability distribution for an experiment of tossing 3 coins is given by this table. The probability distribution can also be represented by a graph, where the x-axis consists of the number of heads or the values of the random variable. We have 0, 1, 2, or 3. And then the y-axis consists of all the probabilities of each value of our random variable. So when x is 0, the probability is 1/8. When x is 1, the probability is 3/8. When x is 2, the probability is 3/8. And when x is 3, the probability is 1/8. There are 2 basic requirements for a probability distribution. This is very important, especially when we are dealing with tables and then we are asked to determine whether that table represents a probability distribution, we have to remember these two requirements. Number one, that the sum of the probabilities of all the events in the sample space must be equal to 1. That is, when we add all the probabilities, dapat 1. Next is the probability of each event in the sample space must be between or equal to 0 and 1. That is, the probability of each, okay, event must be greater than or equal to 0 but less than or equal to 1. Let's take a look at the example given here. Kung titignan natin yung table na ito, we can see that this actually represents a probability distribution. By checking, we can see that when we add 1/8, 3/8, 3/8, and 1/8, we will get 1. Okay, and that is the first requirement for a probability distribution, that the sum of all the probabilities must be equal to 1. The second condition is that walang probability, okay, dito sa ating table na negative and greater than 1. So if we look at each probability, this is actually greater than or equal to 0 but less than or equal to 1. And that is the second condition na nasatisfy. So this table represents probability distribution. Now, let's find the probability of the random variable x that's going to be greater than 2. So if you look at the table, the only thing na greater than 2 dito ay 3. Okay, that's it. So that is the same as the probability of the random variable x that is equal to 3. And that is equal to 1/8. Now, if we find the probability of the random variable x that is going to be less than 3, tignan natin itong 3, and then we see that this is equal to the probability of the random variable that x is equal to 0 plus the probability that x is equal to 1 and the probability that x is equal to 2. So when we add these probabilities, yun na yung probability of the random variable that x that is less than 3. So we have 1/8 plus 3/8 and then plus 3/8 again, and that gives us 7/8. And last, the probability that the random variable x is 0 is definitely equal to 1/8. Another example, let's construct a probability distribution and draw the graph. Okay, let's say the probabilities that a bakery has a demand for 2, 3, 4, 5, or 7 birthday cakes on any given day are 0.35, 0.41, 0.15, and 0.09 respectively. So let's construct a table. Okay, so we have x here and the probability of the random variable x. So we have the random values 2, or the values of the random variable 2, 3, 5, and 7. And then respectively, we have the probabilities of each value. So 0.35, 0.41, 0.15, and 0.09. Now, if we look at this, we can see that this is actually a probability distribution, because if you add all these probabilities, you get 1. At wala naman ditong greater than 1, wala rin namang negative. So that's it. So this is a probability distribution. Now, if we represent this through a graph, okay, where x is the values of the random variable, and then the number of cakes here, and the y-axis consists of all the probabilities. So we have this. And lastly, the probability distribution can also be written in formula. Let's say in this example, the probability of the random variable x is given by 1 over x, where x is equal to 2, 3, and 6. So obviously, by constructing a probability distribution, okay, the values of the random variable x are 2, 3, and 6. And then by using the formula, isa-substitute lang natin si x here in this formula. So that is 1 over 2, 1 over 3, and then 1 over 6. Thank you so much. I hope you learned something about the probability distribution for a random variable. Thank you for watching.